Hi, I'm Reid Kirchenbauer with InvestAsian.com here on Nomad Capitalist. I think frontier and emerging markets are two of the best types of economies. But what are they exactly, and what's the difference between them? So there are three different types of economies. The first are developed countries. These are places like the US, the UK, Australia, Japan, Singapore, etc. For the most part, I think the opportunities in these places have come and gone. Usually demographics are not very strong. Often there's population decline, which is never good for an economy. Developed economies can be fine for investing on a case-by-case basis. I hold some stocks in Japan and Singapore or elsewhere personally, but I don't think the opportunities in the 21st century are in developed markets. I think in the 21st century, you're going to see a lot more growth in emerging and frontier markets, and that's our focus today. So what are emerging and frontier markets, and what's the difference between them? An emerging market is a newly industrialized country. Manufacturing is usually a large part of emerging markets. Some examples of emerging markets are Thailand, Malaysia, China, Brazil, and so on. These are countries often with strong demographics, sometimes not so much. Thailand and China, for example, are going to see population decline in about 10, 15 years or so. But as a whole, emerging markets kind of have traits of developed markets and frontier markets. They're between the two. They're not quite developed, but there's not quite the overwhelming growth that you'll see in a frontier market, such as Cambodia, for example. So what perks do frontier markets have over emerging markets? Well, frontier markets, for one, are much less correlated with the global economy. You can see McDonald's and Starbucks and Burger King and all of these franchises all over the world, including in emerging markets. Certainly you'll see Starbucks in Brazil and China and Thailand, and emerging markets thus are very dependent on the global economy. If the global economy tanks, emerging markets are going to go right with them for the most part. Every country is unique and has its own circumstances, but for the most part, if you're trying to avoid a recession, or if you're trying to have a part of your portfolio that's very uncorrelated with the rest of your portfolio, emerging markets might not be where you want to be. They're faster growing than developed markets, but they're not uncorrelated necessarily. They're still heavily reliant on foreign investment, and when foreign investment stops, emerging markets go right down with the rest of developed economies. Frontier markets, on the other hand, like Cambodia, Phnom Penh, Cambodia, where we are right now, you won't find any McDonald's in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. So what happens when McDonald's stops expanding and the US economy tanks and, well, nothing in Cambodia, at least from that perspective, because there is no McDonald's here. There's no halt on foreign investment flows that are needed because there are no foreign investment flows, at least for McDonald's. Therefore, frontier markets are much more dependent on demographics and internal growth factors than anything else. Frontier markets are growing because a middle class is rising. They're growing because people are moving from the countryside into the city in search of better opportunities. Now, will McDonald's come here eventually? Probably. McDonald's is now in Vietnam when they weren't even several years ago. I'm sure one day within our lifetimes, McDonald's will be in Cambodia, and when that inevitably does happen, Cambodia will step up the ladder, so to speak, from a frontier market to an emerging market. Now, eventually, multinational companies will expand into Cambodia. They started expanding into Thailand 20, 30 years ago. They've done the same with Vietnam about 10 or 15 years ago. And I have little doubt that one day McDonald's and all the other large multinational corporations will be here in Cambodia, employing people and bringing the middle class that is currently rising in Cambodia, they'll be helping even more so than that. So frontier markets, generally speaking, are the best of both worlds. Sure, they're lower on the economic totem pole than either developed economies or emerging markets, but they nonetheless have the best of both worlds. They're not correlated with the global economy, certainly not in the way emerging markets are, let alone developed markets, and they have a huge amount of growth potential because when multinational corporations do finally arrive in frontier markets, that will also be a great boost to their economies.
How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.